Hello friends, am I audible to each one of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I'll introduce myself. I am from 2008 exam batch. I joined railways in 2011 June. So I'll be completing 9 years this June. And I have worked as senior DFM at Random, then deputy FA construction at Ernakulam, and as deputy FA workshop in Chennai. And after that, I got posted in vigilance. I'm completing 2 years in vigilance. Last week happened to speak to Raju sir, and I felt that the probationers need to have a good understanding of how vigilance department works, because mostly whenever there is a vigilance case or uh, uh, some adverse uh, narration of vigilance, that's when officers get to know about vigilance and how it functions. So before I proceed further, I'll just show you the objective of our presentation today. The first objective is to give a brief introduction to vigilance department. Uh, Second, this is the most important thing I will be striving for today. That is to get the correct perspective of vigilance function, your role in preventive vigilance, and finally, common mistakes, irregularities committed by probationers and inexperienced officers. See, before I start off, I would like to narrate two or three cases. It's not a case study actually. It's just to let you know how you should approach different situations. So last week also I discussed with Raju sir, as well as the general approach is that we teach about case studies, like different incidents that happen. And the funny part is every year new incidents happen. So instead of narrating the incidents, my objective here is that how you should deal with specific situations. The first one here is, what course of action would you take? I will go with the assumption that you are all new. You have no idea about railway functioning. You just have to apply logic and give reply to these cases. The tender value was less than 50 lakhs. For tender value less than 50 lakhs, there is no eligibility criteria. The tender was about maintenance of bio toilet. The lowest bidder has no experience in bio toilet maintenance. Conveners and third members view. You are the finance member. Convener will be from the executive department. Third member will be from another third department. No eligibility criteria. So they said that you can't overlook L1 because there'll be a vigilance case. There's no eligibility criteria. How can you insist on eligibility? So I would like to have a couple of responses from any of you. Can you just think over how will you take a decision for this particular situation?
So we can, if in case the L2, check L2 if he has any experience and give a
Okay.
counter offer.
Okay, that's one suggestion. Next one.
So probably in stores we have something called for newly, for the newly entered people who doesn't have experience, we give certain portion of the contract. So like that, since he is L1, we can't deny it. As per the rules, we have to accept him. So, and if eligibility criteria is also not there, so probably we can give him few of the train operations, and then we can go for L2.
Okay. Any
Let
one
him
more opinion?
quantity.
I'll take one more opinion.
So can we use a consultancy service from some experienced player and get the maintenance done by L1 so that we can keep a check on whatever activity has been done? We can get a checklist or standard operating procedure for maintenance of specific bio toilets from a consultancy, third party, and use it as a checklist against for auditing or.
Okay. So I have a couple of cases like this. I'll come to the answer at the end of my presentation. So please pay attention to the presentation, and then towards the end we'll review the reply given by you. Okay. This is the second case. You are nominated as an evaluator for 226 papers. The question is that you have to identify the mistake and correct it. 1 mark for identification and 1 mark for correction. But in the answer key given to you as an evaluator, only the correct word is mentioned. Okay, nothing is mentioned about identification, how you should see evaluate identification by the candidate. Now your DRM wants it to be done in 3 days. That means you have to evaluate 226 papers in 3 days time. It is simple English. Should you go ahead and evaluate? What would you do if you are the evaluator?
So we should ask for the criteria for identification. In what circumstances can a mistake be identified? First, we should ask for it.
Okay, second opinion. Any other view? No, please see what I've written. DRM wants it done within 3 days. So if you ask for clarification, there will be a delay. What would you do?
So then we should approach DRM, and then because 1 mark for identification, 1 mark for correction. We know the evaluation only for correction. As Shashank said, we should approach DRM immediately and then tell him how to go about evaluating the identification part. We can't.
So we can also clearly write down the assumptions we have taken while evaluating and identification process.
Probably past papers, past experience, how this may not be the first evaluation. So
Yeah,
if
that's why I
there
said
were
it's
any past
simple English.
experiences-
So should you go for clarification? Fine. So anyway, we'll go to the next case. There is a 3-member committee formed to finalize a halt agent. Halt agents are the agents appointed in halt stations. Maybe some of you are not aware, but just for your understanding, it's a simple way to tell. Pressure from commercial branch to finalize it in 2 days. Their dealer requests you to sign the minutes of the committee's meeting just after the Independence Day function. You are about to leave, go back home, and the dealer says that the other 2 members have already signed. So if you sign, we can issue the order. After 2 days, there is tremendous political pressure to start the operations at that station. DCM says that they have already asked the agent to start operations on the 3rd day. Okay, what would you do?
being a official holiday, a national holiday, I think we should wait for the next working day to sign.
So I think we should sign only once we have read it properly and not in haste.
Okay, next one. Any other opinion?
First of all, without having the signature, how can DCM ask the halt agent to start the operations? The contract is still not in existence. So I think we should not sign it.
Okay, fine. So we'll have a reply, answer to these questions at the end of the presentation. Okay. But I will not say any of you are wrong or right. You just wait for the presentation to end over, you'll get your answer. So the first thing is, what is the meaning of vigilance? Okay. Vigilance is the action or state of keeping careful watch for possible danger or difficulties. Okay, this is simple English. Okay. Now it's the same thing applicable to vigilance department of government sector, like PSUs, banks, other government departments. Every organization has a vigilance department for this purpose precisely. Now, can you tell me why you need a separate vigilance department? Can't the administration take care of all these things? Can't the administration keep a careful watch for possible dangers and difficulties? Why do you need a separate vigilance department?
So then it will be a judge of your own call.
In order to ensure its efficacy.
So to avoid conflict of interest.
Yes, sir. You will be a judge of your own cause. So it's better that you get it done by somebody else.
Okay. Any other opinion?
So you should also look independent when you're questioning somebody. The person within the system, he may be independent, but he doesn't look independent. So it is always better to have a other party outside the agency to question and to have that independence concept.
Okay, fine. So I'll tell you, I have not put a separate slide for that. I just want you to understand that first of all, Vigilance Department is the coordinating agency for CVC, Central Vigilance Commission, and CBI. So any of the action recommended by CVC and CBI, there is a single window agency kind of a thing where they write to the CVO of the organization, and it is for CVO to coordinate and do the needful. Sometimes CVC asks an organization to do an investigation and submit a report about the complaint it has received. So the vigilance organization of the individual departments, they have to conduct investigation and give the report. At the same time, regarding gazetted officers, vigilance organizations, if there's a malafide intent observed, they have to immediately intimate CVC and then follow the instructions given by CVC. So to coordinate all these activities, you need a separate department. The second point is that this independence from normal hierarchy. One of the points raised by one of the probationers here. It is independent of the normal hierarchy. I am not reporting to my department boss. I am reporting to SDGM and CVO, who in turn is reporting directly to GM. And then even SDGM's APAR is evaluated by PD vigilance. So the local administration doesn't have a say in controlling the vigilance officer. So it is an independent organization. Then third one, suppose you are posted as ADFM or senior ADFM somewhere and you detect a fraud, but you believe that some more specialization is needed in investigating. For that purpose also vigilance is there. So in future, if you come across any such issues with whether you find a malafide intent, procedural irregularities may be there, immediately intimate vigilance so that they will send their inspectors and they will conduct the investigation from there on. Then main thing is another important point is that third party checks. Vigilance does something called preventive checks. So if you are senior DFM, you will be busy with your day-to-day routine that you will not be able to check all aspects of your system whether they're functioning fine. Vigilance inspectors will do preventive checks to ensure that the systems are in order. Fine. Any doubts regarding this? Shall I proceed to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Now, next point is corruption. Actually, vigilance is an organization that is set to prevent corruption from reeking into the organization. World Bank defines corruption as the abuse of public office for private gain. Here, corruption, the second point is more important. Corruption is not specific to the public sector. It can be for private also. Like recently, it was reported that for one of the clothing brands, their advertising head had siphoned off 2 crores. So that also will be considered as corruption, not necessarily a private sector means public sector phenomenon. Corruption is. The next one is functions of vigilance department. Okay, here surveillance and detection. I think I already told you we do preventive checks and then we have source information, so we go and do further investigations. The second one is punitive vigilance. Punitive vigilance is that if we come across any malafide intent, then our action should be so strong that it deters others from indulging in the same kind of misadventure. The third one is preventive vigilance. This is where your role comes in. So as probationers, I would request you to pay attention, because right from your probation days, you can be a part of the preventive vigilance function. Vigilance, I think I'm sure that you will be able to relate with most of the aspects mentioned below, right? Vigilance is seen as a hurdle in progress of work. You would have read some articles about it. It affects quick decision making. You're always scared of vigilance. What will vigilance say or do? So you take your own time. Then witch hunting. Some people believe that they have done nothing wrong, but still vigilance is after them. Then fault finding machinery. That they do a post audit of things and then question you about the action you have taken. So this is the perception created. My main objective of today's presentation is to remove this negative image from each one of you. If it still persists at the end of my presentation, please feel free to ask questions. I will stop my presentation only after I cleared each one of your such doubts, okay, or apprehension. So actually, this is what is defined by CVC manual. The purpose of vigilant activity is not to reduce, but to enhance the level of managerial efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. Any vigilance function should aim at upholding the morale and protecting the value of the system or the organization. Now, can any one of you give me an example of the second point? How can vigilance uphold the morale of an officer?
So fake cases, in case of fake vigilance cases, if the person comes out clean after the investigation by the CVC, it can uphold the morale.
Okay, any other example? Fine. So what I would like to say here is that Anusha is correct. Here, as vigilance, we have to protect the good and destroy the evil. It's a saying from our Mahabharata, but that's what vigilance has to do. So if an officer has got into trouble, vigilance has to see to it that there's no malafide intent. If there's no malafide intent, they should protect the officer. Second point, there are sometimes laid on rules and procedures, but if the officer's actions have resulted in gain for the organization without any individual gain for the officer, vigilance should highlight this and appreciate the effort of the officer. So vigilance also plays a proactive role in upholding the morale. It's not only for like deterrence, it also plays a proactive role in upholding the morale of the organization. Next, the first part which I said is detective vigilance. So here we have to